Ask Me Anything by Brainologi. Hello, children. How are you? I am Anupam Joshi, and welcome again to another session of Ask Me Anything. We are going to meet Dr. David Button from the Museum of Natural History, London. Hello, Doctor.
Hi, how's it going?
We are very happy, Doctor. We are very happy to meet you, receive you. And Doctor, I'm calling you a doctor, okay? And most of the children must be saying a doctor is supposed to be taking care of patients, right? So how come a dinosaur researcher, and we'll come to what that word is called a doctor? Please help us. How are you a doctor?
So a dinosaur researcher is a doctor because, similar to a medical doctor, it takes a lot of training and learning to become a dinosaur scientist. So to be one, you have to complete what's called a PhD. And once you complete that, then you get the title of doctor.
That's interesting one, children. I think that's a good learning. So Dr. David Button is a postdoctoral research in the Department of Earth Sciences in the Natural History Museum of London. Okay. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what is paleontologist? What does a paleontologist do? Tell us something about it.
But like the most important and fundamental thing that paleontologists do is to actually find and dig up the fossil bones that we then all work on. And so this means they have to be able to organize and plan and then execute expeditions to all sorts of parts of the world where we can find dinosaur bones and dig them up, which can be very hard work. And it means that even two paleontologists, their days are probably completely different from each other.
Wow. So children, did you get that? What does a paleontologist on a daily basis do? Can you help us, help us bring alive a day of yours?
So in my normal days, I focus mainly on research. So some paleontologists will focus more on field work. I focus typically on research. And so for my sort of average day, what I do is we've X-rayed loads of dinosaur bones. And so I work with them in the computer. That lets me bring them into the computer and we can reconstruct them in there and start to piece together how they originally would have looked. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And then when we discover things, we then have to write them up and publish them so other scientists can see them. So that's kind of like my day to day.
Wow, that's awesome. You know what, children? Doctor has been very kind and shared some pictures. So let's take a look at that. I think let's go to the first one. Okay, children, what do you think is over here? Can children guess the answers? What is happening here? Yeah, volcano, X-ray, bison. Okay, that's an interesting answer from Ehsan. Okay, Ryan is asking where are the fossils? Okay. Brain scan or a body scan of an organism. Yes, Adit and Siddharth are somewhere close by. Jellyfish, Agastya says. Thermal vision, he is somewhere there. Okay, volcano fire. No, that's not volcano fire. Other than scorpion under very ugly light. Wow, Mark, you've got it. Somebody said crab. Okay, that is a scorpion. Mark gets that question. So, children, this is actually a scorpion under ultraviolet light, and the doctor will tell us the story here, Doctor, come on, tell us what the story is.
So UV light is useful when you're out in the desert because scorpions, they glow under it. So at night in particular, there's lots of scorpions about and you don't want to sit on one or like go to sleep on one or something. So I'd go around using the UV light when I was going home in the evening to make sure I didn't bother any of the scorpions that were like living around my tent.
That was interesting, Doctor. That was an interesting experience. Before I go to the next question, I want to ask you, this dinosaur period, they have, these three periods behind them. They call it the Jurassic period, Triassic period, and Cretaceous period, right? So let me ask if the children know what's the difference between the three periods. Okay, how many years ago was the Triassic period? Come on, let's see the answers. 6 million, no Lavani, 6 million is too close by. Millions is okay, 250 to 199 million years ago, Charuk. Okay, that's close. 200 million Rian, okay, close by. Dhyan says 100 million. No, Dhyan, 100 million is 2 years. 600 million, no, that's too far. Rian says 600 million, no. 213 million, now that's a specific answer. Ved says 300 million. 700 million, no, it's too many. Alan says 250 million. Yes, so the answer is actually 230 million years ago, right? So all period before 230 million years ago was the Triassic period. So all are dinosaur periods, right? So why do they have such different names? What is the significance of this?
So the reason we have to give them different names is if you think that paleontologists have to deal with really long stretches of time, going back hundreds of millions of years. So we just like to split it into chunks to make it easier to deal with. And just having names for these periods makes them easier to talk about. And each one was originally defined by differences in fossils of marine animals that can be used to recognize them. But also, think about these periods, it helps us to think about the ways in which the Earth has changed in that time.
Wow. And let me ask you a more basic question here, doctor. What exactly is a dinosaur? Because, we keep thinking, are these just lizards which have become very big? Or what is a dinosaur? I mean, it's a very fundamental question, right? But we know dinosaurs are these big animals, but are they lizards? Are there some birds? Are there some reptiles? What is a dinosaur?
So dinosaurs, they're not lizards, but they belong to a different group of reptiles called the archosaurs, which also means the ruling reptiles. And this is the same group that today contains crocodiles and also the dinosaurs' descendants, the birds. They held their legs straight under their body. They didn't have them sprawled out like lizards did. And this means that dinosaurs would have been more agile than those other reptiles. So they're a very specific kind of reptile, which isn't really like most of those that we see today.
Wow. So there is a question from Aksa who says, so are dinosaurs dangerous?
So dinosaurs would have been dangerous if you were around them. Not necessarily that much more dangerous than many living animals, but they still would have been very dangerous. We have the living dinosaurs, the birds. Most of those aren't very dangerous, but some of them can be as well, some of the bigger ones. So the big prehistoric dinosaurs, I think many of them would have been quite dangerous.
Okay. So Parth is asking a question, is saying that what did these dinosaurs eat?
So dinosaurs ate all sorts of things, and one of the main areas of research I'm interested in is working out exactly what dinosaurs ate, and it varied quite a lot with the group. So if you think the sauropods, so the big giant long-necked dinosaurs, they all ate plants. So they ate tree leaves and then some lower growing things like ferns. And similarly, the ornithischian bird-hipped dinosaurs, so things like the horned dinosaurs like Triceratops and the duck-billed dinosaurs, they also ate plants. But the theropods, the sort of two-legged dinosaurs, they mostly ate meat, such as the flesh of other dinosaurs, as well as other sort of smaller animals like crocodiles and mammals and so on. But even some theropods changed from this meat-eating diet to a vegetarian diet, eating leaves and fruits.
Wow. So Aksa is asking, can dinosaurs fly?
So dinosaurs we generally think of, like T-Rex and Velociraptor and so on, they couldn't fly. However, we now know that birds were descended from dinosaurs. So they were one group of dinosaurs that learned to fly. So birds can fly, but other dinosaurs were stuck on the land.
Okay. And so I think one more question is that why are aerial and marine lizards not dinosaurs?
So when you think about in the age of dinosaurs, there's lots of marine reptiles in the sea. So stuff like the mosasaur in the Jurassic World movies and so on. And those are big reptiles. So we might think of them as dinosaurs, but actually they're from other groups. Big dinosaurs didn't live out in the sea in the same way. These are different groups of reptiles.
So, and one of the questions they ask is, how did these dinosaurs attack?
How do they attack? So if you think of a small meat-eating dinosaur, like something like Velociraptor, would have pounced on prey, a little bit similar to an eagle, in that it would grab them with its talons and dig its talons in and then start biting it to kill it. But then a larger meat-eating dinosaur like Tyrannosaurus, it would have ambushed prey and used massive bites with the big head to help subdue it. And some other meat-eating dinosaurs seem to have been built more for speed, so for pursuit hunting. So different kinds of theropod dinosaur would have different ways of hunting.
Wow. So some of the people are asking me questions. Are there any animals of the dinosaur period which are still there existing right now?
So there weren't big mammals like bison, but there were small sort of mouse or shrew-like mammals that lived alongside them. But then also dinosaurs lived alongside frogs and lizards and crocodiles and birds and bees and all sorts. So some of the animals around at the time of dinosaurs would have been recognizable to us today, but some of them would have been very different.
Okay. So one question I have, doctor. So did India have any dinosaurs? Can you find some fossil dinosaurs in India as well?
Some of the most significant fossils in the world come from India. So in terms of dinosaurs, India has several dinosaurs. And some of those include Isis-saurus, which was a long-necked sauropod. We also get carnivorous dinosaurs in India, like the Indasuchus shown at the top, and that was about 7 meters long. It was an ambush predator with a big sort of stocky, powerful head and a low crest on its head for showing off to others. And so as well as lots of dinosaur fossils, many eggs are also, dinosaur eggs are known from India as well, like nesting sites, as it's a very rich country as far as dinosaurs and other fossil animals go.
Yeah, isn't that exciting? Because I never knew that there were dinosaurs in India. Tell us, why are dinosaur names such, it's such a tough one to pronounce? Why can't they have simple names?
So dinosaur names are based mostly on Latin and Greek because historically those have been like the main languages of naming things in science. But the names then are supposed to describe something about the dinosaur. So often they'll describe where it came from. So Edmontosaurus, for example, means lizard from Edmonton because it was found near Edmonton in Canada. So an example of that is the Isosaurus that we saw earlier from India. That's named after the Indian Statistical Institute, ISI, and then Saurus.
Oh,
So
really?
they
Oh,
can be
okay.
named after all sorts of things, really.
So Preet is asking us, so
Mhm.
she has two questions. One, are dinosaur eggs present? Do they come from eggs? It's a reptile. And are they still available today? Can we, even find eggs even now?
So dinosaur egg fossils are found quite a lot. So sometimes you only find fragments of eggshell, and sometimes you find like nests with eggs preserved within them. And several like dinosaur nesting sites have been found across the world, including in India. So you can still find the dinosaur eggs, and if you're lucky you can sometimes even find the skeletons of embryos inside. That's quite rare, but obviously these eggs are all fossilized. They aren't like viable eggs still or anything, but they're still relatively common fossils, and we can start to then get an idea of how dinosaurs, what their nests would have been like and whether they would have cared for the eggs and that kind of thing.
Anvesh is asking, what kind of tools do you use?
So you'll use tools like picks and shovels to get rid of like bigger, heavier pieces of rock and chisels. And then when you get down closer, you'll use finer scale things like chisels and scratching tools, and then brushes to remove dust and that kind of thing. So essentially, as you get closer to the bone, your tools have to get finer because you have to be increasingly more and more careful.
So Arjatya Ghosh is asking, how did these dinosaurs rest? Did they have a place? Do they have a nest? Where do they stay? I mean, how did they live?
So many dinosaurs, they were very big, so they would have probably just rested wherever they could because they'd be like too big to make a home for themselves. So some of the small plant-eating dinosaurs, we found them with evidence of them digging out their own little burrow for them to live in. So some of the smaller dinosaurs had interesting homes like nests and burrows and so on, but the bigger ones would have probably just slept out in the open.
And someone else was asking a question. So did the big lizards or the dinosaurs stay in caves, and did they come in contact with cavemen? Is that a possibility?
We don't know if dinosaurs or not would have lived in caves, but they probably would have. But with regards to cavemen, although we think of everything as prehistoric, so dinosaurs and cavemen were separated by 60 million years of Earth history. Dinosaurs died out long before they ever saw the first cavemen, so they would have never met each other.
So Vedika has an interesting question, doctor. One is, how do you know how old a fossil is? And then how do you know which came first, which was the earlier one or which was the previous one? That's a very interesting question from Vedika.
So one way is simply to look the order of the rock units, because the deeper ones must be older because then the younger ones formed on top of it. But we can get an idea of more precise ages, first of all, by looking at the evolution of particularly of sea creatures within these rocks, and we can use them to help work out which one was older than the other one. And then also, if we look at fossilized ash and other igneous rocks, we can actually look at the decay of radioactive elements in those, and that acts like a clock. So looking at the proportions of different radioactive elements, we can then get a more accurate estimate of how old that unit is. And so by comparing these different rocks and working out where falls where, we can then build up a sequence of how old the rocks are. And so then we can then work out that the oldest dinosaurs are the ones that occur in those oldest rocks, and the youngest ones occur in the younger rocks.
What are the colors of the dinosaur? I think we see so many pictures, like we see green color, we see this color. How do you get to know what color skin the dinosaur had?
Most of the time, we can't tell what color dinosaurs were originally. But in some cases, we're very lucky where there's been very high detail preservation of dinosaur feathers and skin, right down to the microscopic level. We can see some of the original pigment cells. Although we can sometimes tell a few of the colors a dinosaur would have been, in most cases, it's speculation. We don't know what they would have been originally.
How did dinosaurs die? How did they get extinct? There are so many rumors. There's the volcanic eruption. There is an asteroid. My son was telling me maybe it was a pandemic like COVID at that point of time. What's the truth out there, doctor? Please tell us, how did these dinosaurs suddenly vanish from the earth?
People have wondered about that for a long time. There's been all sorts of theories. What seems to have really killed them off was the impact of a giant asteroid with the Earth. So an asteroid about 10 kilometers across collided with the Earth 66 million years ago. And we know this because we found the crater. The crater of this asteroid is now in what is now the Gulf of Mexico. So we know this asteroid impacted. And when it hit the Earth, it would have thrown up loads of like dust and molten rock into the atmosphere. So this would have blocked out the sun. The sky would have been blocked out by all this like cloud of dust and soot and ash.
Like it's behind me.
So freezing temperatures might have lasted for as long as 30 years afterwards, and photosynthesis would have been strongly reduced. So without this, all the plants would have died in the cold temperatures and unable to make their food. And without plants, the plant-eating dinosaurs would have starved, and the meat-eating dinosaurs that fed on the plant-eating dinosaurs would have starved in turn. So in this way, the dinosaurs would have starved to death in freezing temperatures after this asteroid impacted.
Adit, ask your question.
How do you identify which dinosaur egg you have found? I mean, like the eggshell.
So what we have to really do is we have to wait until circumstances where we're lucky enough to have an egg with bones of the baby still preserved inside. And then we can then look at the eggshell and look at the shape of the egg and the texture of the eggshell. And we can then say, okay, if we get more eggs with the same sort of texture as that, we know they came from this kind of dinosaur.
How many varieties of dinosaurs are there?
We estimate that we've probably currently know of about sort of 700 good dinosaur species, and depending who you listen to, there might be a few hundred more than that. So some people have estimated there might have been originally sort of as many as 2,000 species, but we'll just have to keep discovering them and see what happens.
So, how do we know which fossil came from which period?
To do that, we have to look at the rocks in which the fossil came from and see when those rocks were laid down. So we have to look at various ways to try and work out how old those rocks were. So we can do that from where they occur in the rock sequence. And then also we can do that by looking at the other fossils in those rocks. By working out that, we can work out which period the rocks belong to. And from that, we can work out which period the fossils within those rocks belong to.
Yes, so T-Rex and the Velociraptors came in the later years. You were saying that when they came, the other dinosaurs, they would be in danger, wouldn't they?
So fierce predators existed for about as long as dinosaurs did. So although Tyrannosaurus and Velociraptor lived late in the age of dinosaurs, before those we had other predators like Acrocanthosaurus, and before that Allosaurus. So right the way through the evolution of dinosaurs, you always got these dangerous predators alongside them. But as you say, the existence of these predators put really strong danger on the other dinosaurs around them. And so that's why as predators evolved to get bigger and more fierce, we also see the defenses of herbivores evolving as well, kind of more armor and spikes and ankylosaurs and the horns and ceratopsians and things. So that means that the predators and prey were stuck in what we call this evolutionary arms race, where the carnivores were getting bigger and fiercer and the plant eaters were getting stronger and stronger defenses. But yeah, as you say, it's just like the danger between each of them that will drive their evolution.
So, apart from dinosaur fossils, are any other fossils of other things found?
So, yeah, that's a good point to make, because there are lots of different fossil animals beyond just dinosaurs, and dinosaurs only make up a small fraction of that. So we think of, for example, we've got things like the marine reptiles and pterosaurs that weren't dinosaurs. We have fossils of those. And even before the dinosaurs, we have fossils of animals like Dimetrodon that weren't dinosaurs, but they were their own kind of animals.
Why are pteranodons not a dinosaur?
So that's a good point, an interesting thing to talk about, because pteranodons and other pterosaurs were related to dinosaurs, but they weren't actually dinosaurs themselves. They differ in some parts of their skeleton. So although they were closely related to dinosaurs, they don't have the same attributes that mean we'd say they were a dinosaur. They were their own kind of animal.
Ushma here.
Yes, Ushma.
How shall I be a paleontologist?
That is a good question. The first thing you need to do is you need to stay in school and learn science. So if you're a paleontologist, you need to know about biology and geology. And if you do well in school on that, then you can go to university and do a degree in geology or biology. And if you do that, then you can, from that, you can then study paleontology and do a PhD in paleontology.
Your question?
Oh, we're dinosaur scavengers. Yes, so we often find dinosaur bones covered in lots of tooth marks where scavengers had eaten them. So certainly meat-eating dinosaurs did scavenge quite a lot, but we don't think that any of them only scavenged. They would have hunted as well. So meat-eating dinosaurs would have both hunted for food and scavenged any dead things that they found.
How do you know where to dig
for the fossil.
So to do that, what paleontologists do is they look at the rocks that occur in different regions. And so if they're interested in dinosaurs, they'll look for rocks first that are of the correct age that might preserve dinosaurs. And then you want to look for sedimentary rocks, so rocks that are made of sands and muds that are compressed, because those are the bones that preserve fossils.
Which is the best college to go to learn paleontology?
That very much depends on what you're interested in, because different colleges will have different professors who have different research areas. So the best thing to do is to work out what kind of paleontology you're interested in doing and what animals you want to study and what research techniques you want to use, and then to choose that college then to go to. So it depends what you're interested in. So dinosaurs live in families, is that the...
Yeah.
So some dinosaurs did. Some dinosaurs like Psittacosaurus, which was an early ancestor of the horned dinosaurs. And that seems to show little groups living together. So it might have lived in small family groups.
So which was the first dinosaur that got extinct?
So the interesting thing with dinosaurs is we think of them all dying out at the end of the age of dinosaurs. But across the evolutionary history of dinosaurs, new dinosaur species were always appearing and old ones were always dying out.
Hello, I hope you liked this edition of Ask Me Anything. If you did, do show your love by pressing this like button over here. And if you have any comments and want to give us any feedback, press on this comment button and express your opinion. And if you absolutely love us and want to know when is our next edition of Ask Me Anything, press the subscribe button. And till then, keep thinking of questions so that you can ask me anything.